How you doing? It has been a while, and we haven't talked in about a month and a half. And obviously, there's something absolutely horrific happened, in Mississauga. So I'm going to start with that. What is the latest on the murder investigation of Toronto Constable Andrew Hung at the Tim Hortons in Mississauga? Is there any updates?
First, let me congratulate the police on the great, delicate policing that was done. You know, they were able to apprehend the assailant, the attacker, very quickly, and of course he was subdued in Hamilton. So it was great police work done in collaboration with Peel, with Halton and Hamilton, and I want to thank them greatly. Obviously, there have been well, 4 lives lost. Constable Andrew Hong, I had the opportunity to meet his widow and attended the funeral. In addition, Shaquille Ashraf, who owned the auto body shop, but I had the opportunity to attend his funeral with his family and many people at Jama Masjid on Coopers. And of course, that was the next day because that is the tradition, the cultural tradition. And then more recently, Satwinder Singh, a young boy who was also shot, 28-year-old exchange student at the auto body shop, passed away. And they have a GoFundMe page to send his remains home to his family. With respect to the motive, I know that they're investigating. There is no new information. Of course, they're going through, Sean Petrie, I believe, was the name of the attacker, of the murderer, going through his life and his contacts, connections to try to understand better what happened. I had the opportunity to visit the Tim Hortons and speak to the owner. He got a lot of counseling assistance for his staff who were on duty at the time. There were about 7, 8 of them at the time. It was fortunately sort of a shift change. It was a slower part of the day. Few were in, and had the opportunity to meet them a week later. And they're very committed to, putting on a brave face and saying, yes, it was horrific, but they thanked me for being there, and they wanted to move forward as well and appreciated having the job and the assistance they got. They talk about the great the help that Tim Hortons and in particular the owner-operator gave them at the time.
Okay. I did see you visit the Tim Hortons almost right after. Can the city do anything to support the people that, were there at that horrific time?
Yeah, so other than moral support, not really. I mean, of course, you saw me lay the flowers along with our fire chief and representatives from the fire service, even in Brampton. And then a week later, wanted things to cool down a little, went and met the staff who had been off. So just the moral support, but they're all back at work now. They thought it was very important that the advice they were given was get back in there and face it, and they're all back at work. And I thank them and I congratulate them. And obviously I told them how difficult it must have been to live through that. It was horrific and devastating for everyone, and me included. I took it very, very hard, that this should begin in our city and happen in our city. And at the funeral, we learned what an amazing individual Andrew Hong was. Shaquille Ashraf as well, but I learned some pretty intimate stories and testimonials from his fellow biker police officers. I went to visit the biker division as well, just to see how they were doing, and they were pretty shaken up. This was a very special individual.
Yeah.
So it was a very dark time. It was, I didn't sleep that week. I just thought, what could we have done differently? But I'm sure police are going through the same motions and trying to understand as well what could have been done differently and how that could have been avoided. And without getting into any details of how or why it happened, I'll let those details unfold as the investigation proceeds.
Do you know if the Peel Police will have an update or a press conference? I know they had one on the Thursday the week of, but they haven't had one since then. Do you know if there's going to be an update?
I'm sure there will once they learn more, but let's give them the time they need to do a proper investigation. Chief Nish is very transparent and very accountable. And I'm sure when he knows more, he'll come forward.
Okay. Obviously, this shooting has, kind of shaken, the police community in Mississauga to the core. What do you think this does to change Mississauga as a fabric?
I think initially people were afraid that this was a targeted, somehow a targeted incident, but it was very random. We don't understand why that individual chose that, Tim Hortons, killed Constable Hong. I mean, that's still to learn. We need to learn so that um, what I'd like to do is reassure everyone that statistically, because we've been looking at the stats, we've had Crime Safety Awareness Day at City Hall. We had the Crime Awareness Dinner with police, with Peel Police, and we are still one of the safest cities in Canada. We absolutely are, and we have a fantastic Peel Police Force, that very dedicated. And what I will say is one of their key strengths is their solvency rate. So when crimes are committed, over 70% are understood, and the criminal apprehended. They're solved. They're very high solvency rate, and so they're very good at what they do. And you have to give them credit. They're very dedicated, and it's a very noble profession. These are very special people, and they work very hard in our community, and they take our safety and our protection very seriously. So the fact that we live in one of the safest communities in Canada is a testimony to the great police work that they do. Now, have there been some increased incidents lately? There have been. And that's very unfortunate. We need to understand why. This individual, we'll learn more about him. And then we know of last week, that incident at the hospital over the weekend as well, at the medical clinic. And of course, that was a specific individual that had an issue with the doctor, and we'll learn more about that. And that doctor had long since retired. But fortunately, we have some fantastic policemen and women on the service. And great crisis management people. The negotiators were top notch and went in and negotiated peaceful surrender, and no one was injured. No one was injured, even though there was a hostage situation, both with a number of patients and then the doctor himself. So no one was injured, and that they are to be congratulated for that, for the negotiation work that had been done to come to a peaceful resolution. I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them. I was in touch with them and the firefighters who were on the scene first, who were trapped all day over 6 hours in the elevator.
Wow.
And I had the opportunity to speak with them as well. And they were pretty lighthearted about it. They had a sense of humor about being trapped in an elevator for 6 hours, but that can't be comfortable. Knowing if the door should open, you had an assailant that was heavily armed.
So let's we'll change the subject, but
Please. But I
the,
want your headline to be thank you for the outstanding police work, for the dedication they have shown to protect our residents and making us one of the safest cities in Canada, because they're incredible. And I work with the chief, the deputies, and many of them while on the police board, but just even as mayor. And I can't tell you how proud I am of them and the work that they do. And they work so hard, and they take it so seriously. Anytime that there's any incident, they want us to continue to be the safest city in Canada.
good. We're going to change the subject to no more masks on planes. I was actually on the plane over midnight during October 1st, and
And you celebrated.
the airline attendant said, "You can take it off now." And it was funny because everybody took it off, and then all of a sudden you hear people coughing. And I'm just like,
psychological.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, it was funny, but yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Obviously.
I think we have moved into that endemic phase. Don't quote me because I haven't heard public health say that, but I feel that's the case. I know many are signing up for the new bivalent vaccine, which is great. It speaks directly to the Omicron variant of the virus, so that's great news too. I think we've moved on beyond lockdowns and masking at this point. I know I was on a plane this summer as well, and I saw that many people just kept a glass in their hand or a little bit of food in
Yeah.
their hand so they could keep their mask off. I think, people did the right thing at the right time when the virus was highly transmissible, and we wanted to protect ourselves and each other. So we wore our masks, but I'm very hopeful that we are past that point now. So that is great news. That is great news. In the airport abroad that I visited, you didn't have to wear your mask in the airport or on the other airlines, but at Air Canada, you sure did up until just recently. And now, of course, the Arrive can has been lifted as well. So the all great news. It does tell us life is slowly coming back to normal.
Thank goodness. Let's talk about coyotes. I know Burlington's had a horrible problem with coyotes over the last probably quarter. How's the coyote situation in Mississauga? And it's human based because people keep on feeding them. Can we increase the fines for feeding coyotes?
Yeah, unfortunately, people do have a tendency to treat them like pets, and they're not pets. They're wild animals, and they can't be domesticated. We don't want you feeding them. That will only encourage them to come back, and then some of them can be very nasty. And we haven't had any incidents to the scale that we have seen in Burlington here, but there have been reports elsewhere in the GTA of the coyote situation. It doesn't seem to be improving. So we encourage people, please don't treat these animals as pets. They're not. They can't be domesticated. They're wild animals, and do not feed them. It only encourages them to come back into your neighborhoods where a small child or your pet could be at a serious disadvantage and could be attacked. So please, but these are difficult situations. Of course, you'd like to, fine people for feeding these wild animals, but it's hard,
Sure.
difficult to find them and have bylaw come in, and bylaw will come in and speak to them about the dangers of feeding animals before we'll fine anyone.
Yeah, yeah, and it's how are you going to get proof?
Well, that's just it. It's a very
Yeah,
difficult situation to prove. Exactly. And before the end of this interview, I want to talk about our voting rates in Mississauga.
voting rates. Do you want to talk about it now? I have a. Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about the voting rates in Mississauga.
So,
You do voting rates or voting race?
no, I don't want to talk about politics.
Okay.
I want to encourage people to vote.
Okay. Okay. Sorry.
The voting rate, the percentage
Rate.
of
Okay.
people that come out to vote is extremely low in Mississauga. And we have to understand why. And I just want to encourage everyone to do their civic duty. It is their democratic responsibility to vote. I don't want people complaining about the directions we take if they haven't voted. There are people around the world who are fighting for the right to vote, and yet people in Mississauga are not performing their civic duty. Now, I've got the statistics because I know it's been low, but it's actually a lot lower than I realized. So, back in the early 1990s, late 1990s, early 2000s, only 20% of our population was voting. 1 in 5 people were voting. It got a little better in around mid 2000s, 2006. Excuse me, to 2010. 2006 was 24%, so
Yeah.
one in 4. That's better, and it actually increased in 2010 to 34%. So now we're 1 in 3, which is a big improvement. And so we thought the first year that Hazel wasn't running to be mayor and I ran against Steve Mahoney, we thought that, boy, we're going to hit 60-70% of voters. We got an increase. We got a slight bump to 36%.
Okay.
Just over 1 in 3 people are voting. Okay. And then back in 2018, so 4 years ago, it went back down to 27%. Not even 1 in 3 people are voting. And I don't understand why. I know that people are busy. I know people have families and jobs. And I understand, especially this time, the election night, October 24th, happens to coincide with Diwali. So it's a big festival, as you know, the Festival of Lights. But there are many advance polls, and I'm going to grab this piece of paper so I can tell you when they are. There are advance polls opening starting on Friday, October 7th across the city, from October 7th till the 9th, from 10 to 4 p.m. at City Hall. There are advanced polling locations right across the city from noon to 8 p.m. on the 13th and 14th, and from 10 to 5 p.m. on October 15th and 16th. So lots of advance poll opportunities. I want people to vote. It's their responsibility, their democratic right, and their civic duty. And you know, we can try to understand why people don't vote in municipal elections, but we make the decisions that are closest to people's lives. We can impact their lives and their communities on how we are building our city. Now, I understand in provincial and federal races, there's a lot of hype because you see the leaders' debates. We all know who the leaders are, and there's a lot of ads and promotions, whether they're blue or red or orange or green. We see all those ads. So we know that elections are coming. We're watching the debates, and then there's the big election day, and we're all aware of it because there's signs. And in a municipal election, we don't see the TV ads, right? We don't see the debates. People don't watch them. They're not broadcast widely other than in the communities in which they're held. And suddenly signs go up and people say, is there an election on? You know, there's an election on, folks, and we want you to vote. So please vote. Understand who's running in your community, in your neighborhood. You and I know that there are two retirements and one resignation, open wards. 2, 9, and 11 are open wards, but of course everything's an open ward as far as our voters are concerned. Please do your research, do your due diligence, understand who's running in your ward, because by the time you get to the ballot, and I want you to get to that ballot, you're going to see 8 or 9 or 10 names for mayor. You will see 8 or 9 or 10 names for councillor, and the same for trustee. And when you get in there, you're going to scratch your head and say, who was it that came to my door? I liked them. I want to vote for them. Please remember their names so that you know where to put your X. Sure. On October 24th or one of those advance polls, and let me say those dates again, October 7th through the 9th, perfect. Please put them up. This is a significant story. This is a significant story. And you know, Toronto can get in excess of 60% of people voting. So even the rates in Brampton are lower. We are notoriously low, and I don't understand why. I mean, I understand in Hazel's days, we all thought we're in good hands. Hazel's here, it's great. She's taking care of it. But, you know, so that's why they were as low as 20 and 24%, but we're still at 27%, only went up to 36% in 2014. So please, let's get the voting rate up.
Mayor Crombie, I'm 100% with you. Mississauga is helping with the education portion of it. We're getting educators, teasers kind of on TikTok, Instagram and stuff to tell people, you know, what a mayor does, what a councillor does, and stuff like that. No matter what, I think it's about education, right? Most people don't know what the municipality does. They don't know what the province does. They don't know what the feds do, right? So it's about,
I can attest to that because when they call my office, I have to always refer to them to a different level of government. Their MPP or their MP. Well, it's good to know that I'm accessible enough that they know I'll call the mayor and ask her, and they do. And I'm very flattered. But usually we have to refer them on to a different level of government. But you know, I knew they were low. So I had my clerk's office crunch the numbers for me, and they're far lower than I expected. I really need more than 1 in 3 people out there voting. It is their duty. It is their civic duty. I want you to vote. So please vote.
We will try to get as many people to vote as possible on our end as well. So
thank you.
All right. So let's go on. So we're a lot of updates. Okay, so I got to ask about the LRT loop. Is there any kind of is there anything going on with that? Like, have you talked to the premier? Have you, you know, have we got shovels and grounds around the Living Arts Center?
So, you know, we could be ready to go if we got the approval for the funding. Of course, I did advocate for it at our AMO meetings in Ottawa in August. And, you know, we looked at different funding options, etc. I don't have a go-ahead yet, but let's be honest, I'm in an election cycle, so I don't think there'll be promises made while we're in the election cycle. But you can bet it is top of my agenda. I hope to be, knock on wood, Re-elected. And if so, it'll be my first call to the Premier to say, let's sit down and talk about Mississauga's priorities, and the loop will be the #1 issue.
So would #2 issue be leaving Peel?
Well, it's always on my agenda. It's
Yeah.
always on my agenda. And I think people better understand how being a single tier city is so important, particularly now that the Premier is talking about strong mayor powers. How would that work in a 2-tier system? And let's think back to COVID. Let's think back to the pandemic when the COVID rates were so high in the city north of us.
Yeah.
Yet we were shut down and our case counts were not that high. And I was watching on the Mississauga-Oakville border, the customers from our restaurants and our businesses crossing the street to go to open businesses on the Hortons side in Oakville where we were shuttered. And I think that plainly speaks to the fact that if we had our own public health unit, we could have been open at the time if we were a single tier city with our own public health unit. There are many, many advantages, including controlling our own destiny, reducing costs, which could easily speak to reducing our taxes. You know, there are so many advantages. There's duplication at every level, having 2 layers of government. We're Ontario's 3rd largest city. Toronto, Ottawa, Mississauga. We deserve to be single tier, much in the way that Hamilton, London, Windsor are. We are not, and we should be. So it is time we transfer a lot of money to the region of Peel. We provide over 60% of the funding. We only have 50% of the vote. We transfer a lot of money for policing that is much used in Brampton for their policing needs, because the formula is assessment based. And of course, we have the higher assessment, so we end up transferring more money towards policing than we use as a city. So there are many reasons why this makes a lot of sense. So it is very important to me, but at the same time, I think we both recognize that it is at the political will of the Premier to do so. He did a regional governance review where he looked at all the regions. Niagara, you know, they chose some amalgamation. Halton said, we're doing just fine, leave us alone. And Mississauga said, we want to be single tier. So, you know, there's no one size fits all. There are different approaches for different regions, but I think it's time. I think it's time. And I think in particular now that he is looking at strong mayors, of course, he's now given strong mayor system to Toronto and Ottawa. You know, we would be next, along with some. I think he has said he will extend it to everyone. How will that work in a 2-tier system? I don't know. I don't know. So
Yeah,
these are questions that need to be answered. So that is always near and dear to my heart. I would like to get this done. You know, Hazel started this fight. I would love to have her see me complete it. That's what I would love.
LRT 1 and leaving Peel 2. Okay.
But we have a lot of a lot of infrastructure needs as well. And of course, I'll always want to talk about the hospital rebuild. That is so exciting. We will have the single largest hospital in all of Canada, one of the top 3 in North America once it's completed, with its 22 stories and, you know, over 1 million square feet. And it's so exciting. And we have the highest need in Mississauga than in any other community. In fact, 7 times the demand on our hospital in any other community in Ontario on average. So the demand is there, the need is there, and it's been committed. I know it's underway, and it's just so exciting. And now, you know, I really want to thank the Premier, because he's the one who made the commitment. He's made the commitment to build the hospital and fund the LRT, and I really want to thank him for that. Those are amazing amenities for our great city that he is providing. Now, if we could just get that little loop added back in. 56 towers going into downtown.
I will probably be having the Premier over the next couple of weeks, so I will push him on those subjects. So, Port Credit. Oh, sorry, not Port Credit Library. The Central Library. What's going on with that? When is it going to open? When is it going to be done?
You always ask me that. Here, I had a note on that.
Every time I go there, I look at it. I'm like, is it done?
That's fantastic. It's not done yet. We're aiming for 2023. As you know, they're adding 6,000 square feet. There's a lot of progress has been made. I'm just looking down because I have big sky lounge, which will be great, overlooking the square.
Is that what it's going to be? Like a sky lounge, like on top of the glass atrium?
That what you're seeing over there, yes. Isn't that
Oh,
exciting?
cool.
They're adding 6,000 square feet. Let's be honest, this facility was built in 1991 and it's long overdue for an overhaul. And when we reopen, it'll of course be the Hazel McCallion Central Library. So it's very exciting, but these things take time. We know that there are delays, supply chain delays, cost issues, labor shortages, etc. But we're on track, as far as I know, to we're putting upgrades to make the library feel more modern, more convenient, improving basic things like improved ventilation, air conditioning, to more advanced things like self-service library services, digital media collections that the residents can access at any time. So, you know,
Well,
this is the first time we're renovating. We're giving it a facelift
you
since
know the funny,
1991.
so just a funny thing, if you actually get directions for Hey Siri, Google, or anything like that, and say Hazel McCallion something, there's like 50 things that pop up.
I know, I
So
know,
it's like
I know,
where would you like to go out of the 50 things? Anyways, I thought that was pretty funny.
I
Port
know.
Credit Library.
Oh yes, so there's a lot of activity there now. As you know, we had thought that perhaps there had been some structural challenges, as you know, and for a short time there, they were doing an evaluation. We were very concerned we would have to move that library elsewhere, but they have found ways through the engineering studies to fortify it, and there's a lot of work going on there now. So if you're in Port Credit, you will see one of the lanes is blocked because there's activity and they're fortifying, strengthening the foundation of that library. So I'm really excited about that. That is really great news because I think many of us were worried that we would lose that site.
Awesome. Okay. And then I know the Living Arts Center has been around literally for a quarter of a century now, right? Is
True.
it time for a rehaul for the Living Arts Center?
And you're absolutely right. It's absolutely a quarter of a century. It's
Yeah,
25-year anniversary this year,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. No,
So
I think
it is
it hasn't
absolutely. And you know, we all go there quite often. I was there last weekend, the weekend before. So the city has taken it back. It was being run by an independent board, but it is a city facility, so we
yeah.
should be managing it. That helped us reduce our costs at the same time. So are no plans yet, but there's always that discussion. What more could be done with that land? Is it ripe for redevelopment? Could we do more with it? We wouldn't take down the LAC, but could that area be enhanced? You know, and so we're always looking at the right proposal, but that has not, we have not begun, that
Well,
work has not begun yet. But as you know, that Meadowvale has been also
yeah.
renovated and reopened, so that was very exciting for us. So yeah,
Yeah.
that hasn't happened yet, but you know, I know that there are many people who would like to see
Just a
some
couple more
changes
things.
in our downtown. Mhm.
Have you been to Illumi yet?
You know what? I had a conflict on the opening night because I don't know, the invitation I think went to my junk mail. So I know. So and by the time I heard that it was opening night, I already had, you know, made a commitment to do other things. So I am going right after the election
Okay.
with my entire team, and we're going to make it family night, and we're going to have a great time. And I'm really looking forward to it. I've driven by and got, oh, this looks so awesome.
So,
Have you been? Have you been to
so I
Illumi?
have not. Everybody on my team has. I
I
just haven't.
know. I hear
So
it's outstanding.
Mayor Crombie, I'm going to throw the invite at you. The 10-year anniversary of In Saga is going to be at Illumi. So we would like you to come, obviously.
Would love it. Depends on the date, of course, because they have
Okay,
so
wait,
many
I'll
things.
let you know the date.
Please
But you still
announce.
have
Yeah,
to come.
let
I
my
don't get
team know. Let my team
even if
know.
there's a
Well,
conflict, you scratch that conflict and go to mine.
it's been 10 years.
Yes, In Saga's been around for 10 years.
Well, you know what? I've been there for 8.
I know. I remember you did the ice bucket challenge with
Remember?
the I Love Saga shirt on. That's how I first met you.
That's right.
Yeah,
I
so
did have the I Love Saga because for a lot of people that just meant I love it. Mississauga, not
yeah,
in Saga, but
yeah,
it was your logo for sure. I
yeah.
see
So
that picture
we're
coming up on my memories all the time. So I was a counselor when you started, and I think you used to have me on then as well.
yeah.
And then I think you hosted a debate when I first ran for mayor. Well,
Yeah, yes, that was quite the interesting debate. Okay, we'll talk
we,
about that
we,
later.
we won't go there. And
Yeah,
just a shameless plug, thank you for having me on today. I am in the middle of an election campaign, so I hope the people agree that I have tried to provide strong and steady leadership to them over the past 8 years, and I hope they will consider me when they go and vote on October 24th. Vote Crombie.
Awesome. Mayor Crombie, thank you so much. I'll send you the invite for the 10-year
Oh, I would
inside
love that.
party
Thank you.
at
If
Illumi.
I can make it, I'll be there. Thank you so
Perfect.
much.
Later. Bye.